Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So I've just completed the first run through Act 9.1. I believe the exploration for tomorrow morning and tomorrow midday. But as for right now, I will give you guys my first thoughts and opinions, including the final boss fight, who I used, and in general the feel of the content and what my experience was with it. So I did clear it all without using any items aside from, I boosted up and I used energy refills. And I can honestly say I did boost up, not because I felt like I need the boosts. It's mainly because I just wanted to get it done faster. Because one of the first things I noticed immediately was the health pulse. Okay, we're not necessarily going to look at low HP champion here like a Rocket Raccoon, but if you're taking a look at somebody like Harnack here, for instance, then we're going to see him having over 800k health. And that's typically the health pulse that we're looking here. 700k to a million for regular path fights. And then on the boss fights for somebody like Silver Surfer, we're looking at 1.2 million nearly, or a Hulk here with 1.25 million. So it's effectively a LOL Labyrinth of Legends length fight. And it felt like it. I'm not gonna lie. It really did feel like it. This completion run was definitely longer than most other completion runs have been in the past in Act 8 or wherever, because there aren't that many nodes that we're used to that give us that much extra damage. And without extra damage, we are left with having to look for the perfect RPG counters to counter all of these, different nodes here. For instance, countering miss or dealing with the debuffs. And that does not necessarily always allow us to bring in, high power, hard hitting champions, which definitely felt like it. In other words, Act 9.1 is not particularly hard in its clearest sense. It's a bit of a slog. It really is. As far as the boss fights and the path fights that I did initially, here we can see for the most part I just went in the middle lanes. So in the first quest, that was the middle path. In the second quest, I think I took the middle path as well for my completion run. Yeah, right here there was a Mystic Champion spam. I used a lot. Juggernaut absolutely tore through this entire lane. For the first lane, I used Serpent. I think Serpent actually did great because he's kind of a ramp up champion as well and kind of really good for those longer health pulls. Felt very safe. For this lane over here, I also used largely Serpent. He ramped up perfectly, and again, wasn't the quickest, but did the job absolutely amazing. Serpent was my MVP in early completion for sure. Could do entire lanes with him feeling safe. If I messed up, the immortality saved me. So that was great. Now, quest 4 is where we need to stop and talk a little bit. Took the middle path as well. It's effectively a shock lane where you do need to place shock on the defender in order to deal damage. You do have Power Technician that gives your tech champions with armor and buffs a ton of power control, and therefore special chaos inversion for the reverse special attacks doesn't feel too bad because they hardly get to throw any special attacks, and if they do, you can just block them. I did eat a couple of them to the face, but overall it was very good. This one lane, this one fight though, was absolute bullshit. I don't know how it got overlooked. I don't know why Kaban placed it there, but it was brutal and mental. And if you're wondering why, because again, keep in mind that we have Thunderstruck. Shock debuffs and passives deal 25% of damage, more damage to the defender, and they take 90% less damage from all sources unless they are inflicted with a shock debuff or passive. So you have to have a shock on the Ragnarok the entire time. Keep in mind, there's effectively no damage increase node other than Power Technician here as well. I mean, Power Technician does kind of help, but the problem with that was that Thor Ragnarok makes incoming shocks suffer 90% duration. So what I did here is, because out of rush I had brought in Shuri, here, and even though Shuri does not benefit from Power Technician, I effectively use Shuri because she can pretty much inflict shocks on every single hit, and I was relying on my crit damage largely, spamming special ones and getting those crit charges in order to do damage. I completely abandoned trying to control his power, and I just kept eating the level 3s from Thor Ragnarok because his level 3 is very, very weak, and if you are shock immune, like Shuri is, then there's no real drawback to that. So this entire fight was, for most part, me just spamming special ones with Shuri, and then eating level 3s from Thor Ragnarok, and chipping away at it. It was like 5+ minutes. And the worst part is, I'm not entirely sure that there are many great counters to this. So if we're going to take a look at the tech class in general, obviously we have Shuri as the prime champion that applies shocks very, very easily. I do think that maybe Red Skull can do quite decent because you do get the increased shock duration. And I don't think that necessarily gets affected by Thor Ragnarok, but still, that's only on level 2s. You do get the benefits from Power Technician though, but Red Skull might be an option here. Who else do we have that has superbly good access to shock? Maybe Guardian works well, because his damage would be shock damage for whenever he would crit and stuff. So Guardian might be worth a shot. But yeah, I don't think there are many great counters here that would have the armor buff to benefit from Power Technician and access to shock. And without access to shock, this is just a sluggish fight. So again, not necessarily super hard, but I do not know why Kabam placed Thor Ragnarok here. I really do not. It was just to piss somebody off. Other than that, again, the fight's not too tricky, and I cleared it, and all that's fine. And which boss did I take here? As far as the boss went, it was Claire. And this is actually a very tricky boss, I feel like, but we had some less than standard solution for it, I suppose. So I ramped up my anti-venom for this, and then after the level 2, I got specters stacked up, and then I just parried a lot. And I completely reversed the aggression regeneration, and she eventually melted. I think Void would probably be the best counter for this fight, because Void, you do not ever have to hit the defender, and you still can start reversing the regeneration sooner or later. So yeah, I think a high Sig 6-star Void is probably the best counter for this Claire, which is quite funny. I was actually very happy that worked. Anyways, then the next part, there wasn't anything too tragic. I do believe I recall the Shocker boss being quite annoying, but I didn't do him this time. Again, I think I went the middle lane here, or which would be considered the... Oh yeah, this was very straightforward path as well. This was Silk, pretty much. I used Silk for Wasp. I think I used like Human Torch for one fight, but Silk just tore down this entire lane. But just about any science champions that do well, decent enough damage and do not rely on spamming a lot of special attacks, like, will work fine. So that was perfectly doable. And then obviously the boss fight. And against the boss fight, I just brought in Lady Deathstrike. So I'm going to show the path that I took. And yeah, Lady Deathstrike just absolutely annoyed it. This was the first boss in quite a while that I soloed first time, yeah, without any prep, without watching any videos, with just having a brief recollection of the leaked abilities video where I remember that I have to punish her heavy attacks with my specials and inflict lots of dots. So I brought in Lady Deathstrike, and she destroyed him. She absolutely destroyed this fight. That was a fairly easy solo first time around. Now, completion offer, lots of people asked, completion offer, in my opinion, is absolutely garbage. Completion offer is not great. Do not recommend anybody. There is a 7-star Nexus Hero Crystal, 2 to 3 rank up gem, and 26 stones for 15k units. If this was like 6k unit offer, I'd say it's decent, good, but not for 15k units. So definitely do not recommend purchasing this. But yeah, as far as the initial completion run went. I was quite happy with it. Again, it felt a bit sluggish, but definitely wouldn't call it hard or a drastic increase in comparison to Act 8 or 7. One thing that I noted is that the defenders also didn't seem to have huge attack values, because I did mess up here and there, and you know, the health that I lost didn't, immediately, it wasn't the situation where you make one mistake and you get KO'd. So that was quite nice to see. And that pretty much has been my experience so far. So as I said, I will 100% this soon. I will make some guides for it as well. Let me know exactly which format you would like to have them, as well as obviously a separate guide for the boss, where I try to simplify it as much as possible. And yeah, that will be it for now, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information